Hi everybody, so today I want to make a video about the very strange phenomenon that is people wanting to be anorexic. If you type in "I want to be" into Google, the first thing that comes up is "I want to be alone," which is actually a Green Day song, so we'll discount that. But if you look at results 2 and 3, they are "I want to be skinny" and "I want to be anorexic." Now, if you think about it, of all the Google searches that must be performed every single bloody day, think of how many people would have needed to write "I want to be anorexic" to actually get it up there in like the autofill section. I mean, it's crazy, right? And I think we can all safely say that the people who want to be anorexic have absolutely no clue what they're talking about, because wanting to lose weight is one thing, wanting to be skinny is another thing, but wanting to be anorexic is in a completely different ballpark, and to utter the words "I want to be anorexic" shows a complete and utter understanding bypass, and those people need a major reality check. So this one's for you guys, you peeps who want to be anorexic, supposedly. So yeah, anorexia is a mental illness. Now, if you've never had a mental illness before, I don't recommend going out and getting one, because who wants to do that, really? Sorry, someone's phone's buzzing. That's really annoying. Anorexia is a mental illness, and a mental illness means that you have completely lost touch with reality. You don't just type in "I want to be anorexic" on Google, then follow somebody's like tips and tricks, and then, wind up in the doctor's office, with a clinical diagnosis. You don't do that. That's not how it works. And who would want to be sick with the most fatal of all mental illnesses? Is anyone seriously telling me that they want to die? Really? I don't think so. I think there's this thing, in the modern age called what I've termed to be the thinness fallacy. The mistaken belief that being skinny will, take away all of your problems and leave you, happy and blithe forever. Like, being skinny is this, panacea, if you like. It will do everything for you, provide every bit of comfort and joy that you've ever sought. Actually, no. That's a fallacy, the thinness fallacy. Take true. So, you don't really mean you want to be anorexic. You're just completely mistaken. You believe, like so many other people, that being thin will make you happy. That being a lean beanpole will take away all of life's problems. But no, you're wrong. You're wrong. Being anorexic will ruin your body and your life. Your hair will fall out, your skin will be a total and utter dry, hot mess. You'll be bloated and constipated. You will, have yellow, decaying teeth. You will be uncomfortable with how you look. That is how anorexia works. You believe that being anorexic and achieving a fat-free figure is going to make you totally perfect. That, it's the final tick on that sort of checklist of life, the checklist of perfectionism. But you're wrong again. You will hate yourself. You've lost all this weight. Your weight loss goals are ever receding, and they will never be low enough. And the more weight you lose, truth, the worse you will feel about yourself. Your self-image will be terrible, worse than when you even started. Your body dysmorphia will be out of control. You will look in the mirror and see fat where fat frankly doesn't exist. It would be so bad you won't even be able to appreciate anything good about yourself, let alone physically. You'll feel completely and utterly empty and worthless. And that is a fact, because we've all been there. In fact, if you agree with me about these things, type in the comment section, "It's true," because I want people to know that this complete thinness anorexic fallacy is total bullshit. And I cannot have young girls, boys, whoever, believing this crap. And I don't want people typing into Google, "I want to be anorexic." People, seriously, just listen and take heed, because there are so many people who know better than you do at this stage. And if you can just prevent yourself from doing it, nip it in the bud. find a different way of making yourself happy. You know, the people who type that in, you know, believe that the goal of losing weight is the key to happiness and success, but that is just yet more wrong. You know, you will lose yourself to this illness. You will become convinced that losing weight is the only thing that you're good at, it's the thing that you're best at, and it's what will define you after a while. You know, as you get thinner and thinner, the weight is even harder to shift, and you know, you will take even more drastic measures to achieve your results. And you know, weight loss cannot continue forever. You cannot be anorexic forever. You either choose to recover or you die, or you know, you will live extremely unhappily, uncomfortably, close to death. Just tell me how that could be worth it exactly. I don't know. You know, you might believe that anorexia will show you how much you're hurting inside to your friends, but you're wrong again, because they will just look at you and think, you know, why are you doing this to yourself? You know, they'll see you as attention seeking, sort of melodramatic, and you will just completely ostracize yourself from your friends and family, because anorexia is extremely isolating and people just don't understand you. And the more ill you become, the less, you know, the greater your social anxiety will be, you know, because of, you know, and just so many reasons, like physically, mentally. You know, you will just completely and utterly alienate yourself from everybody you ever cared about, and they will feel completely powerless to help you, quite frankly. You may also believe that anorexia will quell or numb sort of any negative emotions in life, but you're wrong again. Anorexia will guaranteed give you clinical depression. You know, malnutrition leads to depression. It's just the way things go. That is a biological, chemical truth. You know, the negative emotions of life will never, ever, ever feel as bad as they do when you're anorexic with depression. Believe me, I've been there. Loads of you guys have been there, and you know. Please type "it's true" in the bottom bar if you're convinced of it too. That those two things just correspond. You cannot be fat-free and happy. It just doesn't work like that. You may believe that, but it just does not work like that. And I have heaps of people telling you right now that I'm right and that being anorexic just ain't what you think it's going to be. So, you know, if you think that anorexia will make you sort of thin and happy forever, you are just yet wrong again. You know, anorexia cannot last forever. You cannot last forever if you insist on having anorexia. It will take your life very slowly. You know, choosing anorexia, as much as you can choose anorexia, it is slow suicide, quite frankly. You know, choose life, guys, choose recovery is what I say. You know, you may believe that nothing can harm you when you've got anorexia. Anorexia is like, or it can feel like, this protective blanket over you that, you know, puts up a barrier between you and real life and real emotion and real pain. But believe me, anorexia takes away every good thing that you may have had, every good opportunity that you were ever dealt, good universities, good jobs, good relationships, you know, happiness in the family, happiness with your siblings, happiness with your boyfriend, happiness with your girlfriend. You know, all of these things just become extremely difficult to maintain when you are sick with anorexia. You know, you think anorexia protects you, but it prevents you doing everything. And anorexia is all you have. You know, when you've lost all of that, what have you got left? Anorexia. But actually, anorexia's got you, because you are a slave to anorexia. And, you know, it's shit. So, one final thing is, you may believe that because you can resist food, that you are better than other people, but you are wrong again. Everybody on this planet needs food to live. You know, just as cars need fuel, people need food. Everything on this planet, under this sun, needs energy to do stuff. You know, nobody believes that because you're hungry that you're weak. No one says, oh, You know, you've given in to breakfast this morning. What a low life you must be. Nobody thinks that. You know, nobody believes that because somebody eats, you know, when they're hungry, that they are fat. That is complete, you know, anorexic nonsense. They are like the faulty cognitions that lead you to thinking that eating per se makes you a bad person, that anything you eat is going to make you fat. And those are the cognitions that are ultimately going to undo you. And they are, you know, they are the anorexic sort of like aphorisms, really, false though they may be, you know. So, please, Jesus, I mean, you cannot seriously believe that being anorexic is going to make life better for you. Sorry about this. Hello? Rubbish. But yes, anorexia is not going to do anything good for you in your life. You you would be seriously misguided to think it would do anything but completely undo your life and fuck you up, frankly. I've been there. Heaps of you guys have been there as well. If there's anything we can do to really spread this message, then, you know, let's do that. Let's say it's true. LouFederer is right. You know, if any of you want to contribute in any other way to this video, then I'd love to hear what you have to say. To think that people would write, you know, I want to be anorexic. I mean, people who have had anorexia, we just sit and laugh at that because, you know, we just think, Jesus Christ, wake up and smell the coffee, guys. Just, you have so much to learn. Really, you do. But never mind. Okay, I have a Twitter, guys. I made a Twitter account, twitter.com/LouFederer. Follow me, or whatever you say regarding that. Facebook, as always. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep tuned because I've got something quite exciting happening in the next few weeks, which I want you all to be part of, please. Okay, see you guys.